is so gross seeing our representatives in D.C. fighting so that the people who don't actually build can suck more of the value that is created by the workers, leaving the workers that they actually represent out to dry. Let's jump right into this story about how Katie Britt and Tommy Tuberville want construction workers in the state of Alabama and across the country to make less money. That is the bottom line of this latest story. And it's something that we've been tracking here on the Valley Labor Report for a long time. It's about project labor agreements and their intentional misunderstanding or misrepresentation of what project labor agreements actually are. You'll remember that under the Biden administration, President Biden mandated project labor agreements on federal construction projects that were valued at greater than $35 million. Governor Ivey wrote a letter with several other governors to the Biden administration asking him to rescind this executive order. And so Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt have written a similar letter to Trump now asking him to rescind this executive order because this executive order is one of the few that Trump has not yet rescinded from the Biden administration. And it's important to understand what project labor agreements actually are. What they actually are is agreements between a project developer and the local building trades unions. Yes, there are unions involved in these agreements, but it is not to only hire union members or use union contractors on construction projects. These project labor agreements simply set standards for pay and benefits and safety and apprenticeship utilization on these projects. And then after that is agreed to, any contractor can apply to work on these projects. But non-union contractors don't like to work on PLA projects because it means that at least for the work done on that project, they do have to pay their people union wages, which are going to be higher than the non-union wages. And so Tommy Tuberville and Katie Britt have written this letter saying that this executive order, the mandating the use of project labor agreements, quote unquote, threatens competitiveness. They further add that the nation's builders, union and non-union alike, deserve a level playing field where the American taxpayer gets the best value for their dollar and our workforce is free from unjust mandates. Now, this bit about a level playing field is hilarious because project labor agreements actually do create a level playing field. They take the labor costs out of the competition for these projects and they say, okay, look, everybody who is going to, we're literally leveling the playing field. Everybody who agrees to bid for this project is going to pay the same level for an iron worker, as a laborer, as a sheet metal worker, as an electrical worker, et cetera, and on down the line. We are literally leveling the playing field. That way, you cannot, as a non-union contractor, come in and get a low bid contract by virtue of exploiting your workers, by virtue of having more lax safety procedures, by virtue of utilizing less apprentices and not setting up America's the next generation of America's tradesmen and women. It's literally leveling the playing field is what project labor agreements do. Okay, they continue. We respectfully request that you reverse the Biden administration policy and restore the long-established government neutrality in federal and federally assisted contracting, blah, 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 blah. The Associated Builders and Contractors, the non-union building contractor association, said in a statement that the ABC has long fought the Biden administration's burdensome, inflationary, and anti-competitive PLA mandate rule. PLAs negatively impact merit shop contractors. I just love how they say merit shop as if union contractors are not merit shops. It's just so freaking ridiculous. Reduce competition and increase costs. We are grateful for Senator Britt's leadership to advocate for federal contracts to be awarded based on merit to foster competition in the bidding process. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, just so stupid. And they think you're stupid because they think that you are going to fall for this. And I hope that you don't. But coincidentally, there was actually a recent study that came out of Illinois from the Illinois Economic Policy Institute analyzing some of the state of Illinois' track record with project labor agreements, because Illinois has actually had a similar executive order on state construction projects for even longer than the federal government had, right? So in January of 2019, the study says Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker issued executive order number 2019-02 requiring all state agencies to comply with the Project Labor Agreements Act and include PLAs on public projects to ensure that they are completed with highly skilled workers. As a result, Governor Pritzker oversaw more than 800 PLA-covered projects during his first term in office, including hundreds at the Capital Development Board. An analysis of more than 2,500 total bids on 773 public building projects valued at $1.2 billion awarded by the Illinois Capital Development Board from 2017 through 2023, including 499 with PLAs and 274 without, reveals that PLAs increased bid competition by an average of 14% after accounting for project size and complexity, project location, project type, and other factors. Projects awarded immediately following Governor Pritzker's PLA executive order had more bids, 3.8 per project, than those just before, 3.1 per project, literally increasing competition. PLAs had no effect on total construction costs after accounting for project size and complexity, bid competition, project location, project type, and other factors. Because PLAs statistically strengthened bid competition during a period with tightening labor market and greater demand for construction services, they helped to lower costs for taxpayers, with each additional bid improving the likelihood that projects would come in below their engineers' estimates by 6%. And it also found that market shares of businesses owned by people of color, women, and military veterans were all between 1 percentage point and 2 percentage points higher on projects with PLAs. So this is a really, really fascinating study that basically showed that everything that these people are talking about is a lie. Right? Everything that Senator Britt is saying, everything that Senator Tuberville is saying, everything that Governor Ivey was saying about project labor agreements is a lie. Now, look, this is not the first study to show that project labor agreements actually do lower costs. And there are multiple reasons that studies have shown that. This one points to the increased competition on PLA projects as a reason for lowering costs. Another one is that PLA projects, by virtue of the fact that, the workers are more highly paid, there's a set sort of, safety program, there are higher utilization of apprentices and things like that because of all of this, you're more likely to have, like Governor Pritzker said, highly skilled workers actually on these jobs. And so you are less likely to have to go back and do rework. You are less likely to take longer than the original schedule to complete the project, and you're less likely to go over budget because you're already accounting for, paying highly skilled workers, right? So those are some of the reasons that a PLA project might actually make the project ultimately less expensive than a non-PLA project where contractors are incentivized to exploit and pay their workers as little as possible, right? Okay, but I don't want to be disingenuous with you. I don't want to be dishonest and misrepresent the state of the research. There are also studies that say the opposite, that say that PLA projects do ultimately increase the total costs of some of these projects. And so, look, what the truth of the matter is, I'm not totally, I can't say for 100% that I'm convinced one way or the other. But what I can say is that even the studies that do show that PLA's increased costs ultimately for the project. It is not that much. It's like 5%, right? It's not a lot. And if you're going to tell me as a taxpayer, as a worker, that if we pay 5% more to build this building, if we pay 5% more to build this building, to develop this project, and we can guarantee that everybody on that project is getting paid union wages, that we are training the next generation of tradesmen and women, that we have a good safety program on that project, and that we can know that there's going to be less, it'll be less likely that people are hurt on the job, that they're going to have health care, that they're going to have a pension, then you know what? I want us to pay 5% more, so that we don't have projects where people are being paid $12, $13, $14 an hour without health care, without a pension, without retirement plans, where they don't have good safety programs. I am willing to pay 5% more and see the CEO of these contractors get a little bit less, and the workers get a little bit more, and the safety be a little bit better. And I actually think that is how most taxpayers are going to feel about this sort of thing. Let me know how you feel. 844-899-TVLR. 844-899-8857 is the number. Interested in your thoughts on this. I will say that, right here in Huntsville at Redstone Arsenal, there was a project labor agreement that was already ready to go. Like, workers, we were ready to break ground to expand the Missile Defense Agency on the Arsenal. It was a big project, and the Building Trades Council had already agreed to the PLA, and Hegseth came down and was like, no, we're not going to do this anymore. And so they ripped up that PLA, and now, instead of work happening right now with local workers getting paid union wages, now everything is up in the air. And we don't know when the project is going to start. We don't know who's going to be working on it. We don't know if it's going to be union or non-union. And we don't know where the people are going to be coming from. Is it going to be Alabama workers who's going to be expanding the Missile Defense Agency on Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville? Or is it going to be people from Georgia or Mississippi, wherever the hell? We don't know, because it doesn't have PLA. So it's very frustrating. Very frustrating seeing stuff like this. Very frustrating seeing our representatives in D.C. fighting so that construction CEOs can take more money and give the workers who actually build, the actual builders, they call, in this letter, they say builders, not union and non-union alike, and they're referring to the CEOs. The CEOs of these companies are not builders. They are owners. They are owners of companies where workers build. It is so gross seeing our representatives in D.C. fighting so that the people who don't actually build can take home more money, can suck more of the value that is created by the workers, and leaving the workers that they actually represent out to dry. It's really gross seeing stuff like that. So yeah, there you go. Senator Britt, Senator Tuberville, they want construction workers in the state of Alabama and across the country to make less money. That's the bottom line. Hey, 5 seconds. Just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate. Had a couple of questions in the chat about PLAs. Pigeon said, is every job site that union workers work on PLA compliant? No. Union contractors can work on non-PLA construction sites, just as non-union contractors can work on PLA construction sites. But the thing that actually makes non-PLA construction sites less competitive and more difficult for union contractors to work on is that you've got these non-union contractors coming in and lowballing because they're paying their workers, not much at all, because they're not doing good training because they don't have strong safety programs. And so they can come in and underbid the union contractors. And in a lot of states, you have these lowest bid rule that requires the state to take the lowest bid. And then after they get that lowest bid, they come in and they're not able to man the project. And so it takes a little bit longer, and they they go over schedule and over budget, and you end up being actually spending more money sometimes than if you had just paid a union contractor in the first place. So yeah, that's why the actual less competitive way to bid projects is by not using PLAs, right? Because PLAs literally level the playing field. So no, every job, but even despite that, sometimes union contractors are able to get they are able to get projects on some non-PLA projects. Pigeon says, "Yeah, I was on a job site as a non-union worker, and that's exactly how they went." Yeah. I mean, it's that's how it goes.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel, to see just how cheaply they can get it across. And I mean, like you said, there's going to be ramifications for that in terms of the quality of the work, the stability of the workforce, the timeliness of the work. It's all impacted.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get what you pay for, and then at the end you end up worse off.
Yep. Very sad, says Pigeon in the chat. GM says, "I'm a shop steward for the Teamsters and also a veteran. While I'm a diehard union in many aspects, I have seen and see that we do overspend grossly on projects and government contracts. In the military, we would pay $600 for a flick, which holds magazines, grenade, med packs, etc. Same thing costs $150 to $200 when bought without government contracts." I mean, that's like... And then it says we need to find a way to pay people what they are worth while still being fiscally responsible and having true respect for the tax dollars that our citizens pay. I agree with what you said there, but government contracts being more than they should be is like a different question than project labor agreements on construction projects, right?
Correct. Yeah, especially when you're talking about the military-industrial complex, which is rife with... I don't know. Some would say waste, fraud, and abuse. But, I do agree. I think that's a separate subject. And I think the message, though, and I think where we have common ground probably, is that we want to see our tax dollars used for the public good, right? We want to we want to know that when we pay taxes and the government decides to spend those dollars, that it's being put towards something positive, and it's actually helping the situation. And so that's what really sticks out with me in project labor agreements is why wouldn't we want our investment of tax dollars supporting workers, supporting the people who are doing the work, right? Who are building these projects? Why wouldn't we want them to have decent wages and decent benefits? Why wouldn't we want them to have safe working conditions and solid training requirements? It just makes sense, right? We have an opportunity with public investments to lift the floor for everybody, right? Yeah. Because that's something else. Is if you're a non-union construction worker and you can see the difference, right? You can see for yourself how much safer and better it is under a PLA or under a union environment. That really increases the competition. Right. And I think to your point earlier, Senator Britt was complaining about competitiveness, but it really, it forces the companies to be competitive to attract quality workers,
right?
Which is something that, of course, folks like Britt and Tuberville are not interested in doing. They don't want the companies to have to outbid each other to, recruit and retain good workers. They're looking at a model that's just pay them the least you can get away with, because hopefully they'll be so desperate they'll take anything.
Right.
And that's kind of where they want us, especially in the South, is to just be so desperate for whatever crumbs we can get. That's a lot of times the mentality we deal with in union campaigns out here in the South. Is a lot of folks are just grateful to have whatever crappy job they've got, and they know it could be better. They know it's not good enough, but they also are scared. They're scared that the alternative is even worse, and they're scared to make trouble and mess up anything with this status quo that, again, they know is not good enough, but they're just scared that the alternative is just going to be worse. And I think a lot of folks are in crappy jobs that's still probably the best crappy job they've had.
Yeah.
And that's a tough situation to be in. And that's where, the real collective action and collective strength comes in, and building those muscles of collective action.
Vonda says Tuberville cannot be the Alabama governor. Yeah, unfortunately, he's basically already governor-elect. Huntsville Dim Worker said, hashtag Senator Tubberhead. Quirky Geek Girl said, is he running? Tuberville's vile. Yes, he is running. Yes, he is vile. And yes, he will probably be the governor. Jacob Jones says, if Britt cared, she would have made a stink during the BBB instead of voting during the BBB voting instead of after the fact. This is just CYA. Yeah, I agree. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.